Hello, what you're about to see is a recording of our weekly call of the Impact Podcast Lab, which is a community of impact podcasters that come together to grow a podcast. And every week we have a call, and on that particular call, there's only 40 minutes recorded because I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what we talk about on the YouTube channel. And the content in there is going to be very insightful. But in the end, we went for an hour and 40 minutes. I just didn't record the whole thing. And for this episode in particular, we had Dillon as a special guest, who's also part of the community. But the idea is to feature successful members of the community. And I've done a podcast with Dillon on this channel last week. And now we've done a Q&A with him, with the community. So I hope that's insightful. Enjoy. And of course, if you want to join our community of impact-driven podcasters, check the link in the description. Much love.
Customers, whatever you want to call it.
Just
But
starting to record. Is everyone cool with that?
yeah, good with me.
Good to keep it. If I publish it, I'll ask you before.
That's fine.
So just on what Brent just said about listening to like customer feedback and how you can know if what your approach is doing is working. I'd say on YouTube specifically, one of the benefits of YouTube is obviously you've got the comment section and you've got the community posting section where you can ask your audience, but also you've got like metrics, so you could have like your average watch time, so how long people watching your videos for and you're listening to your podcast for. Then you've got click-through rate, which is how many people see your video and click through. So let's say you have 1,000 people who are shown your video and 100 click through, then you've got a 10% click through rate, and that would be pretty good. If you've got 10%, that's pretty good. And then also, I'd say click through rate and retention are they're the two biggest things, seeing if people are interested in what you're speaking about. And in terms of the comment section, that's super important. So if you build up like a small audience, maybe they'll give you ideas. They'll say, "Oh, I'd really like to see X come on the podcast," and you can then maybe ask them or interview them. You can even get questions from your audience, so you know you're making more tailored content. And then anecdotes. Oh, I've had loads of recommendations. Loads of my audience have given me guests I've never even thought of. And also you get referrals. Like once you've had one guest on, then they refer you to their friends and their friends. So yeah, once you get going, you'll get suggestions from people. I can't even think. Probably half of my guests have been suggested by my audience in my comment section, and I've got like 1,800 subscribers, so not a huge audience. It's relatively niche, but people, if they can see you're interested in the topics, they will help you with suggestions. And I'd say positive comments are a great sign. I wouldn't say it's the be all end all, because I myself, I watch a lot of YouTube videos and I don't comment on them, even if I found them quite profound. So it's not always a red flag if you're not getting comments. Sometimes people they're busy, they don't want to leave comments. But if you are getting comments, then that's perfect, and that's a great indication. But early on, you don't have to read into it too much. Let's say you've got five subscribers, then you don't need to necessarily shape your podcast and your channel around what they're asking for. It's good to just try things and see. But initially, don't worry too much about if your audience are loving it, because it takes time to get good, to get the reps in. So you don't need to like productively procrastinate or anything like that initially, because I was slightly guilty of that at first, just maybe listening to people's opinions too much. But at the end of the day, if it resonates with you and you feel like it can help people, I'd say initially just get the episodes out.
Yeah, I'd love to add something to that. Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah, sure.
That's spot on. Is with the podcast, almost like there is the business and the art almost, and the business often like, okay, what does the customer want and how we shape that, which is totally a good idea, and might depend on your goals also.
Yeah.
If your goals are more the views or selling something specific, then maybe that asking approach is good. But also the art is, okay, what comes through me and I'm going to share it, right? And some business people, they were known to also tap into that more artist vibe, which is like, for example, Steve Jobs, he wasn't asking so much what the consumer wanted. It was like, okay, that's I know that's the next thing. And so playing with these two, it's like, okay, what does it's very alive for me. It's like my audience a lot will be in the raw vegan and they want interviews on that. But what do I really want? I also want follow my curiosity. Maybe if I get 10 times less views, so then depends on what you're aiming for. And for example, having fun can be a more important metric than increasing views depending on your goals.
100%. 100% agree with all of that. It's a delicate balance. It's like ikigai. I'm sure some of you may have heard of that. Just finding the overlap between what you're good at, what people want, what you can maybe get paid for if you are looking to monetize it, and there's a fourth one which has slipped my mind. Probably what the world needs. I think it might be. Yeah.
I
And
have a
then
follow
Dylan,
up. Oh, go on.
oh, sorry. Good.
Well,
No,
yeah,
you're right.
just a
You go,
quick
you.
follow up because it kind of relates to what we were just talking about. I'm curious if anyone here has encountered quote unquote like negative press or like creating an episode, creating content that's garnered a lot of interest, but not necessarily positive interest. And like, yeah, just even people's perspectives on that. Because even like tuning into my podcast, some of the things I intend to share like will be kind of subversive and like questioning of like the status quo. And so I don't necessarily expect all the comments to be like, hey, good job, I agree. I expect people to be triggered. And I'm just curious if anyone has seen how that plays out. And kind of my gut tells me that it might end up being more successful at times, as long as it's like an authentic message and you're not just trying to trigger people for the sake of it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's spot on. I think you're naturally there's probably gonna be 5% of people, no matter what you do, who just hate your guts for no logical reason, just because, well, it's indicative of where they're at in life, and unfortunately, if they're going through a hard time, they're just gonna leave hate. But yeah, it's a good sign if you get a few negative comments, even though even though it's not nice to receive. It does show that you're at least standing up for something, and obviously divisiveness for the like greater consciousness is not the best thing, but on the internet, if you are speaking your truth, you are going to offend some people, and that doesn't matter. That's just a byproduct. It's just where they're at in life right there and then. But later on, it might plant a seed, and later on, it might cause a mindset shift. Because for me, I went vegan like 6 years ago, and I used to mock vegans. My sister went vegan like 10 years ago. I used to take the mick out of her. I used to just be macho man, like eat all your meat, that side of things. So people can change, and yeah, I'd say that is probably a good sign. I think what you said there, is that a good sign? I'd say if you are getting a few hate comments, that's good, as long as you're not clickbaiting people, as long as the episode is positioned well and it's not like people are clicking for one thing and they're getting something else. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Do you want to share anything, Alex? Or
I had a question.
Then
oh yeah, sure.
I think I like just what you shared, Brent, on as long as it's authentic. So especially as we want to raise the consciousness, I wouldn't play too much. I think you can be more successful playing with trying to be triggering on purpose, but but that's probably not what we want. It's probably not the right people. So I know personally, things like gossipy content or criticizing other people, I could probably build an audience that gets more views, but first I don't want to do it. And also all views aren't equal, right? Like like for me, I'm much better having 2,000 views from high vibe people I want to connect with, create community with, and work with, than 10,000 views from people who just scroll and leave comments, and then there's like what I'm more, for me the most important is I'm building my business, I'm building community. So I prefer less views, but with the right people and connecting with the right people. Yeah.
100%. It's that delicate balance, isn't it? Like with all things, it's finding that middle ground. I know we had a couple questions. If you can still remember your train of thought.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there was like a certain time frame roughly, if it was linear, where you felt there was a moment where all of a sudden there was momentum, or was it more you were just focused on the creativity and not even sort of looking at the results in the beginning, or like at what point did you start to notice, I guess, an increase in viewers, and also if you were monetizing from the beginning or if that's something you added in at some point.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird curve for me because that's the thing with social media. It's very unexpected. So I think I started it in October and I got monetized in January the next year with just YouTube AdSense. So that was like 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. That's the kind of criteria you need, which isn't bad for YouTube. Like a few months, that's not a bad time frame. And at the time, I was like super passionate about what I was talking about. I had a real desire to speak to all these guests. I had a real curiosity, and that's why it did really well. And then later on, that sort of curiosity faded a bit. So then things stagnated and slowed a bit. So if you can maintain that curiosity and that passion, it really does come across in your content, and you could grow really fast. And monetization, I'd say, if you've got your own product, that's the best form if you are looking to turn it into a business. YouTube AdSense pays very little. I think I've had 160,000 views, and I think it's brought in like £400 UK pounds, which is maybe $600. So obviously, if you're doing it with the intention of just getting paid per viewer, then it's not going to be sustainable. So maybe affiliates, maybe your own product or sponsorship, they would be the best routes if you're looking to monetize. What's your sort of goals with the podcast? Are you looking to monetize, or is it more of a passion project, networking? What's your sort of intention?
Yeah, I would say initially it's like passion project, networking, especially like in Melbourne and Australia, dance movement therapy, it's not really in the forefront of people's minds. So for me, it's partly I feel like I've got this it's in me. I'm supposed to sort of help pioneer it and get it going. But also for a practical connection for me, yeah, monetizing with my own products. So services, like promoting individual dance movement therapy or community dance classes or some e-products, digital products. So sort of weaving those in along the way.
100%. I think because that's quite niche, and the people who maybe view the content or listen to the podcast, they're going to be very interested in that side of things. I think the monetization potential could be quite high because obviously your target audience is very engaged depending on how you market yourself. But yeah, there could be a lot of different products and services that could come from that. And yeah, I think and being niche isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like Alex said, 10,000 views, for clickbait content isn't the same as like 100 real true fans. So yeah,
Yep.
there's endless opportunities really.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I had a question about momentum.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had like quite a bit of interest and momentum and curiosity in the topic and the people you wanted to interview at the get-go. So were you interviewing people like every week, and then the more you interview, um, the more like prospective you
You're just breaking up
like,
just bear with me one sec. The last like two sentences you said just kind of cut out, if you wouldn't mind just repeating.
yeah.
I think we're losing her.
And maybe she can write it in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Hey,
not
did I
bad.
cut off?
Yeah, just cut off.
Okay. So I'm not sure where I cut off, but it was just a question about like the momentum at the very beginning that you mentioned that you had an interest in like interviewing. Did you interview people like every week from the very get-go?
Yeah, I think the cadence initially was once a week. Some weeks I got two or three in, which is quite hard if you're like doing other endeavors, so that's probably a bit unsustainable. But yeah, if you can commit to a regular cadence, I'd say if you can get one once a week, that's when things were picking up more so for me. Um, each one getting 1,000 or 2 views. That's another beautiful thing with YouTube. Now one of them's got like 10,000 views, so it can pick up later on. But yeah, that obviously helps. If you've got a regular cadence, I'm sure like Alex teaches, if you can get like a regular cadence, then people know what to expect. And if you can publish at the same sort of time every week, then you've got like hungry fans who want to listen to it at that same time, maybe on their way to work. So yeah, if you can get once a week, that's a great cadence. If you can do more, even better. But you don't want to create too much pressure on yourself. If you're finding it unsustainable to do one, then stepping it up to two might be too much initially. But yeah, it all depends on how much time you've got to put in, how many guests you want to speak to. A good thing I did, and I continually add to it, it's called the Dream 100 list. If any of you guys have heard of that, I'm not sure if Alex has mentioned it before, but it's like a list of like 100 or more or less people who you want to speak to, you want to connect with. I can share a template in a moment when I find it. I've just got to find it somewhere. But yeah, it's like a list of people you want to speak to. And if you've got that list, it makes it a lot easier to reach out to people, to satiate like your curiosity. And yeah, you can just publish a lot more episodes. So I'll just share that in the chat in a moment.
And that's a list that you created, like 100 people that you
Yeah, I'll
wanted
just
to.
find it. It's like a
Actually,
template.
can you share it in school then?
Yeah, I can share it in. I'll share it in both.
Okay.
I've just remembered it. It's like this one is it's called Dream 50. This template, but it's you can just add more columns. I found it online before, but it's an idea popularized by I can't remember some famous guy, and I'll just share it in the chat now. Basically, it gives you certain columns, so it's like what their name is, their contact details, maybe how well they know you, um, what's in it for them, what's in it for you. It helps you craft like a strategy to get them on your podcast, because obviously everyone has certain things they're interested in. Some people they want impact, other people they want sales for their business. So if you can appeal to what they want, then it's a lot easier to get them on your show, on your podcast. So I've just shared that in the chat, and I'll share it in the school community as well. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
something that's really
that's a
helpful.
specific niche, yeah, from the very get-go. Because if you have like too much of a broad audience, too much of a broad topic range, the audience gets scattered and then the views get lower.
Yeah, that can be the case. I think it's good to have. I think Alex talks about like 3 to 5 subjects you want to talk about. So yeah, I'd say unless you're super famous, unless you're like Tony Robbins or Chris Williamson or someone like that, if you're going from like I don't know, you're talking about art, then you're talking about history, then you're talking about politics, then you're talking about business, then you're talking about spirituality, it may be a bit too scattered. But if you have like 3 things that are sort of overlapping, I don't see any harm in that. Um, but yeah, I'd say definitely being more niche initially seems to work better.
Awesome. Thank you.
Dylan, I'm curious when you spoke about like that initial wave that you kind of rode and then the curiosity kind of like waned down. I'm curious if there's any particular reasons you can identify for that. Is it like you really dove into a particular topic, interviewed all the experts and felt like you almost mapped it out and so therefore the curiosity wasn't there because you'd kind of tapped into it most of it? Or what do you think contributed to that?
Yeah, I'd say so for me, because the podcast was like you say, it was more of like a learning vehicle, more of a curiosity vehicle. It I was about 30 pounds lighter. I was like really skinny, and I wanted to make like a raw vegan lifestyle work for me because I knew intuitively it's what made me feel the best, but I wasn't seeing like the results in my physical body. So I, yeah, just interviewed a lot of the experts. That's originally why I joined Alex's community, and I got a lot of knowledge, saved a lot of time, which I'm now sort of using to help others. I'm using that knowledge to help others, so it's been amazing from that standpoint. But yeah, after a while, you hear the same sort of things, and then maybe it's time for me to just segue a little bit, maybe into another area of curiosity for my goals personally. But if you're running a business, if it's something where you're selling a certain product or service, then absolutely it's best to just keep it in that lane. But for me personally, it's more of a networking vehicle. It's more of a curiosity. It's more, yeah, satiating that curiosity for me personally. So yeah, that's why I'd say the initial momentum and passion for those kind of topics faded, just because it was like the law of diminishing returns. Um, so yeah, that's for me personally, but it depends what your specific intentions and goals for the podcast are.
I want to add something to this also is like, for example, for me because we're talking about that, the topic of raw vegan, that's something we've dived into a lot with our podcast, right? But it could be for different topics. I find that after interviewing a lot of experts, I was like, okay, I got the knowledge now. I'm less curious. So one option is to go into different topics. So for example, my podcast is not so niched on that. But if I were to really build a business and sell raw vegan products a lot and was like, okay, I need to stay there, but I still want to be curious, you can always do what I've been doing with that is do different kind of formats where instead of an interview, maybe you have a conversation, because now I know better, now I know more. So maybe I have someone where I push back on something, and that makes also the podcast really interesting, is when the host is also knowledgeable, and that creates something really unique. That's a way also to, if you need to stay in a niche, that's a way to still make it interesting, either talking more yourself or having more conversations rather than just expert interviews.
Mm. Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. Like you say, just slightly pivoting, because that's kind of what Alex and I are going to be doing. Maybe more videos like what we've learned after talking to the experts, and you can also do your own content once you've built up more of a brand, like more solo episodes, because now you're more of an authority just through association with these people, which is kind of the more the direction I'm leaning in now. Just maybe interviewing the occasional like expert who's maybe been doing it for decades and decades, but not overdoing it with people just for the sake of it. So yeah, that's great what Alex said. You can pivot, and you also, if you've got clients or people like that, you can interview them on your podcast as well. That gives you a lot of authority, and yeah, there's so many different ways you can take it. So yeah, that was a great point. Thank you, Alex.
I'm curious if anyone or if either of you have had somebody want to be on your podcast and you didn't want them to, if you felt like it wasn't aligned, and how you handled that.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few. Definitely, I try not to be rude. So if they're like, let's say their account is clearly, it seems like a scam or something like that, then I'll just ignore it. But I've had a couple where I just say, I kind of tell like a white lie. I just politely say like, at the minute I'm just not. I'm a bit busy, or I'm not currently interviewing people at the moment, or I'll just say something. Usually with an element of truth, but not just making it clear that now is not the right time. But if it's someone who is maybe a bit smaller, and you're like, oh, will it look bad if I'm interviewing smaller people? I'd say be open-minded, because sometimes these people you can have an amazing conversation with. But if it's like you don't align with their values and you just don't want to give them the platform, then yeah, that's totally all right with just ignoring them or just politely telling them that, because at the end of the day, it is your platform. So yeah, definitely, it's a few people I've had to say to. So yeah, how about you, Alex?
Yeah, same here. I've had a few people, and there's a few where I didn't feel like answering. I think it's on social media at some point it's okay, but in general I do answer. And well, recently what I do more is like I'm quite picky for my guests, for the light leaders. However, I have my other podcast where I got you, Dylan. So sorry, but where I'm less picky,
That's what I was on.
which is very closely tied to my business. So,
Mm.
because actually, I was in the dilemma that most people are, that many people will be, which is uh, I have my podcast, The Light Leaders, as a passion project, but I also want to grow a business. And then it was like, well, the advice would be I should be more niche. So that's why I started a different podcast, which is about people starting a podcast or growing their podcast. So that's really niche. And for this one, I'm not very definitely not as selective. And by the way, I did a thread on school. I don't know if you saw it, but I'd love to have all of you on it. And because it's just a good conversation, doesn't take me much time, and I don't put on myself these expectations that I have on light leaders that of a certain standard of quality. Like I want it to be good, but it's nice also to have a podcast where I can just tune in and it's easy, and I'm not going to spend like a lot of time choosing the thumbnails and the things. So actually, I funnel people a little bit in that way. So if someone comes, let's say, and they're what's happened to me a lot because I have that brand, the Raw Vegan Movement, is someone is maybe a detox specialist and has like is small, is not a big name, has 1,000 followers or two on Instagram. And I'm like, I'm not super excited about having them as an interview. Potentially, if I'm excited to have a conversation with them, I might be like, hey, let's do a podcast, but let's do more like a conversation where we talk 50-50, if that excites me. So that's a way I could rewire it. Or if I'm not interested to have them on the podcast, I will be like, which is true, I'll be like, I wouldn't feel excited about doing that. That wouldn't be something I'd prioritize now. But if you're planning to start a podcast, I have another podcast I'm prioritizing on. Like I say, my priority at the moment is this podcast. And if you want to start a podcast, that's something we can do. So then I give them another way to connect together while saying no to the light leaders, which was usually where they want to be.
Yeah, it's never an easy one because you feel a little bit bad, but at the end of the day, it's your platform. So yeah, I can
Also,
accept it.
I actually I told my partner at some point when we meet people, please don't say I should have them on the podcast, because I'd be speaking at a cafe and she's like, oh, you should totally have them on the podcast. And then I'm like, yeah. If you want to, it was a little awkward. So I actually
Yeah.
asked don't, if I want someone on the podcast, let me invite them directly.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's always awkward because you could ask someone at the end of the podcast, like one of your guests, you could say, who else do you know who'd like to be on the show? And they might refer someone. They might say, oh, such and such is really good, but you really don't want to speak to them, and you could be like, oh, okay, yeah, I might reach out to them. I'll just see, and deep down you don't want to have them, so you may encounter that. It's just finding a polite way to dismiss it, I guess. But yeah,
I had a question on
Actually,
this.
just before getting, I would just want to add a little something. And sometimes another thing is that I put them on them. I might be like, maybe do you have something really exciting that you feel would be a good topic, or and then give them a chance actually to be like, maybe they have 1,000 followers and not that big. They're like, oh, actually I have this, and maybe they'll be like, and I'd be happy to promote it with my whole list. So all of a sudden they come to you with like a proposal that makes it more exciting for the conversation or more worth it for the brand or the distribution. So sometimes I put it on them also to create, like, if they have something really exciting to come up with.
awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, my question was in regards to in the beginning of the process of your podcast, were people saying yes, like the people on the list that you wanted to interview, were they just saying yes to like being interviewed by you, or did it take time? Did you have
Yeah.
rejections at first? And also another part of the question, like how, like at first you might have been like more nervous. How long did it take for you to like free flow your talk as you are doing now?
Yeah, great questions. It's that's one of the benefits of, because I'm not like a 20-year podcaster, I can kind of still relate and recall these memories. I'd say, yeah, you will get a few people who ignore you, but what I did was I didn't reach out to like people with 1 million followers, just maybe people with like 5,000, 10,000, something in that range where they're accessible but they're not like too big. And a personalized voice message on Instagram that worked pretty well. I would say sometimes it can be a bit cluttered in the Instagram request and the inbox, but for me it worked all right because I know these people aren't getting like tons and tons of requests. But yeah, so a personalized voice message, just more appealing to the goodness out of their heart and just saying like, oh, I really resonate with your message. Like it's personally changed my life or something like that. Like would love to have you on the show to spread your message. And because a lot of the people I reach out to, they're quite conscious individuals, so that they want to do good in the world. So that's their main motive. Obviously, they like sales and things like that, but I just kind of identified what they value most just by listening to them on other podcasts and the kind of way and their sort of nature, the way they are, and that personally helped. And what was your other question? Was it on rejection? I'm trying to
On
remember.
your comfortability in relation to like
Yes.
putting yourself out there to the world, and the your speaking, the speaking agility.
Yeah, 100%. That
Yeah.
just gets better over time. There's still, when I watch back videos and podcasts, I get annoyed with myself. I'm like, oh, I should have a bit more expression there. I should remove the filler words because I know I say like a lot. I know I say a lot, and that they're like my filler words. And it's definitely improved when I compare it to like a year or two ago. But yeah, it's just time. It takes time. So if you filmed 100 podcast episodes and you did that in a year or two, like maybe once a week, twice a week, then you would get so much better quicker. So yes, if you put in more reps, you are going to get better. At the same time, you don't want to sacrifice quality, but initially it's just going to be such a big learning curve, and there's so many things you can't account for until you actually get going. I listen back and I cringe my first episodes, but yeah, you got to start somewhere, and we're continually evolving and growing, and it's a great little public accountability tool. So yeah, it takes time, like anything.
Indeed, there's a very big cringe factor at the beginning when you're like free flowing, you're talking, and I noticed like the first episode that I recorded, I had a lot of ums and ohs, which I didn't realize I had so many of when I speak,
Yeah.
and now I'm trying to consciously not say ums and ohs, but they were definitely there, and I was trying to edit them out, but it just wasn't worth it. It was, I
Yeah.
guess, easier, just more authentic, not keeping them in at first.
Yeah, 100%. It does show you're a normal human being, which is fine. People can acknowledge that, and if people see you're trying, then that's great. People are a lot kinder than we make out. Obviously, we see like one troll comment, and that sticks in our mind, but most people, they're not too bothered. And yeah, it will improve over time, definitely, definitely.
But I guess even troll comments are good for the the YouTube algorithm, but not for your potential clients if you're offering a product. Yeah.
Yeah, although some of your best clients, they probably won't care. They'll just acknowledge that some people are having a bad day and they leave a bad comment. But yeah, it's never personal. It's just hurt people. So it's more of a reflection of them. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm sure just from speaking to you now, like you sound like a good communicator. So I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm sure you'll just keep improving.
Yeah, it's just that blockage, just like getting myself out there and doing it more, and then not caring so much about the outcome initially, and then just getting better as I go along. Mm.
100%.
But it's doing it right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And having non-attachment to the actual outcome, just falling in love with the process and just having positive intentions. Maybe like, oh, for this conversation, I just want to add as much value to the world. I want to help people. And I know as a byproduct of that, with my curiosity, with my passion, that the episode's going to be amazing. And, you know, it doesn't matter about my filler words or all these little things.
Mhm. Exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
And I want to add a little something on this also is with the Riverside, at some point made it even more obvious because it creates a transcript. And one thing I've had on top of the and the and little ticks that made me cringe watching myself was sometimes I feel I start a sentence and I have a new train of thought, which makes that I don't end the sentence that I started, which a lot of people do when they talk, but they just don't realize. And so whereas Riverside makes it very obvious because in writing, and then I have a sentence that doesn't make much sense. And when I try to create clips, I'm annoyed at myself because I feel, oh, that was a great sentence, and now you're starting another train of thought, and it doesn't really make sense. Or also things like clipping made me sharpen my question, because sometimes I will have a clip where I have a question that's dragging for 40 seconds. That's obviously not a great clip. So, but all of these are invitations, yeah, to be better public speakers and to be better, yeah, to get better at it. But it's very in our face for sure. So it's tough sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I once you get more experience, like Alex says, you'll be mid conversation and you'll be like, oh, that would have been such a great clip, but I went off on a different tangent or something like that. Or maybe when you're asking a question, like this question is going to get a good answer just from how precise I was asking it. So it just comes over time. It's not worth worrying too much about initially, but yeah, you might find yourself like analyzing in your head as you're speaking. If you're maybe anything like me, you'll be like analyzing in real time, maybe clips or yeah, just where you can improve in real time. Sometimes that happens. So it's just like anything, the more focused time and attention you put into it, then the better you get at it. If you're here, you've obviously got a learner's mindset. You've obviously got like an improvement mindset. So if you make every episode 1% better, before you know it, like you'll be unrecognizable compared to when you started. Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed Alex the first time, but then we had technical issues, and then the second time, the first time I could definitely relate to like me being in my head, like asking the question, but then like questioning the question that I just questioned in my head, and it was a whole process. But the second time around, it was more of a free flow. So there's already a learning curve from like 2 episodes in. Well, one that we're not going to release, but then yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think it's good to take it step by step. So obviously asking a sharp question for a clip is a pretty advanced technique. So it's a little bit like when you learn driving, first you just do the wheel and then you add the pedals and then the gear, right? You don't want to try to do all at the same time. So similarly here at the beginning, if you focus too much on being really good on this, then you might not be present with your guests, which is something much more important, I believe, especially when you start. And then as long as you have a good conversation, that's more important than necessarily having the whole direction of the podcast and all that. So yeah. Just to on this, because we're 1 hour in, I want to keep going. I have more time. Everyone who wants to stay, please stay. But I just want to kind of wrap up that first hour first. Like this, if someone needs to go, yeah, you're welcome to just drop a message and tell us and go. And people who want to stay, we just stay hanging here. So yeah, but thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, and thank you so much, Dillon. It's been really good. And as mentioned, let's keep going. But there's something I wanted to share also. If you feel like sharing, asking questions, doing directly in the school community, that's always welcome. Like this, there's more engagement there. I also wanted to say the first step is that all of us create and grow some podcasts. But the idea also, as you do the course, as you get the community call, is I've made the decision to even to want to build that community through affiliates, through the people who are part of the community. And I've just changed and increased the affiliate commission to 50% also. So the idea is the community now, not for you guys, but for the people joining now, it's $99 a month. And half of that goes to whoever invited them. So the idea is we build some podcasts and we we make the community together. So I own that I'm more the leader of that community. I'm building it, but everyone in the community can become a representative and make good money from it too. So that's also, I'll offer it even as a way to monetize the podcast if it's relevant for you. It's something you can do. And so that's $50 per month per person that you enroll. And with school, it's very easy. On the community page, there's an invite link that's linked to yours, and you get paid. So it's not me paying you; you get paid directly through the platform. So when someone pays, it's split directly through you. And that's how I want to grow the platform too. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Don't hesitate to invite people there, to give recommendation, to participate. And let's and we can flood the internet with empowering, insightful podcasts. So that's a little bit how I wanted to wrap it up overall, and I'll stop the recording. But then let's keep. If Dillon, you're good to stay.
Yeah, I'm good to stay for however
Questions,
long.
and everyone who wants to go, you can go or you can stay. But thank you everyone for being here, and much love.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep going.